Welcome everyone to our new edition of Ask the Experts. So today we will be exploring adaptive devices with some of the members of our community. So we're very excited to bring you this very important discussion today. Joining us today, our panel is Victor Sharonis. Victor Sharonis is a longtime member of the foundation. He has CIDP. He often helps us with our programming. He gives us wonderful ideas, including this idea to explore adaptive devices today. So welcome, Victor, and thank you for being here. We have Bob Burton. He's our Newburgh, New York volunteer. Bob had GBS in 2010, and he's got some really great advice for his adaptive devices that he used during his experience. And also joining us today is Bob Shay. He is from the Chicago area. Bob had GBS over 20 years ago. Bob's been a longtime member of the foundation. He also started his own foundation called Devices for the Disabled, and we will be hearing from Bob about embracing a new normal and accepting and even mastering your adaptive devices. As well, we have, of course, Kelly McCoy, our Associate Director of Engagement. Many of you know her. Kelly is a CIDP patient as well, and Kelly's got some great tips for adaptive devices around the home. So we will get started, and we're going to kick it off to Victor. So Victor, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and some of your experiences with adaptive devices?
All right. Just to prove that I'm a member in good standing, here's my foundation bracelet.
Great.
Like American Express, never leave home without it. Right. I have CIDP. I was probably 6 to 10 years, maybe longer, before I was diagnosed with CIDP, partly because I also had spinal stenosis at the same time, which presents pretty much the same as CIDP. The doctor, the medical corps decided that while we got spinal stenosis, we don't have to look for any other cause. And it wasn't until I was curious to do a what if with a neurosurgeon to ask what if anything would surgery do for my spinal stenosis? His answer was, well, I could do something. I'm not too sure how much I could do. I thought I could be helpful. However, I think there's something else going on. You should see a neurologist. So hence my clumsiness was actually not clumsiness. I had a good reason to be a klutz. So that was my how I discovered I had CIDP. As far as the foundation goes, I find it to be a remarkable godsend in any number of ways. The people, the information, the contacts, and I find mostly with the foundation as lead, it inspires our community, which is a tight-knit community. It inspires our community to want to give back, not just to kind of like fend for ourselves, but as we learn things, to pay it forward and help others out. So kudos to the foundation, eternal kudos to the foundation, and their continued sass.
Well, to you too, Victor, and your continued sass.
And I rest my case about sass. As far as the assistive devices that I've used, I haven't included anything about ankle foot orthotics. I've tried them. I've tried several different brands, several different styles, and my foot drag and foot drop seems to remain stable. And I find that they ended up being more of an impediment to my lifestyle than anything. So I don't use them anymore. I fancy that I don't really need them anymore. I just have to pay attention to my leg strength, particularly my thighs, and remind myself, hey, pick up your feet and pick up your legs. That way you don't drag your toes. There are other devices I use that I can't go without. Chief of which is my rollator by Vive. It's something I got online, and that also is like my American Express card. I never leave home without it. It enables me to maintain an inordinate amount of independence and self-sufficiency. I can walk. I can lean on it. It saves me several times when I have dragged my toes. I can roll around in my lumpy backyard to go to my garden and do some gardening. it's this morning I had saw my cardiologist, so I just fold it up, put it in the back of my car, and open the hatch, get it out, unfold it, march into the office. And I like the fact that it's something you can sit on. It's rather stable, yet it can collapse and fold down into a small package. I really delight in going on an airplane, a commercial airline, and seeing a cabin crew have a cow. Oh, sir, you'll have to check that. I said, no, I won't watch. And I collapse it and fold it down, and it goes in the overhead bin.
Wow. Victor, how much does it actually weigh?
It's somewhere around 15 to 20 pounds.
20 pounds, okay.
It's not particularly heavy. It's putting it in and out of my car is also a good torso workout, and maintains arm strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it online for maybe $150, $160. Its instructions are simple to assemble and put together. It's not difficult at all. The other thing I like a lot is I thought about this. Hey, my car itself, my Outback, my Subaru Outback, it doesn't qualify for an assistive device in the traditional sense, but between that and my rollator, I maintain a rather normal life. I'm 80 and I still am not afraid to think about driving across the country, just because of the rollator and my good old trusty 4-wheel drive Outback. That's what I drive down to my ground level patch when I go weed and plant stuff in my backyard. That's a godsend. Other sets of assistive devices around home: stairs, handrails or banisters, and hand grabs, particularly at the top of the steps, to sort of pull myself up the last step and onto like the floor. In the bathroom, there's we use shower and toilet chairs. I'm not going to provide a picture of the toilet chair because it's not particularly photogenic. The shower chair is something I got after spinal stenosis surgery and rehab. Hand grabs in the shower, and the handheld shower head. They're very, very useful. I love to swim. I used to swim a lot. Don't swim too much anymore. But in the summer, when the pool's open, I walk around in the pool against the resistance of the water. I sort of do several laps of walking around in the pool. I do jumping jacks, and the picture shows there's like a pull out bar, and a cane. I use the cane every once in a while, just for a short walk from the house across the back deck to the pool. I'm beyond using a cane for longer walks. That's it, I think, for my set of assistive devices that I can think of.
And you had a couple of tips, I think, for when you first come home from the rehab.
Yes.
Consider within your home.
Yeah. The place I went to rehab was very good at before they discharge you to, all right, let's see how you're going to do in normal real life. So let's see how you can navigate from your room into our sort of fake home, our kitchen area. Let's see if you can make a sandwich by yourself. The fixes they had available were not particularly attractive, but it was the point I'm leading up to is before you leave rehab to come home, think in exquisite detail of every little thing you do before you went to rehab. How are you going to manage that and navigate that now that you're out of rehab and your physical abilities are different and you've got some physical deficits? How are you going to manage that? Can you get in a car? Can you get in your house? How many steps from the garage floor into your house? Do you need a ramp? Do you need a hand grab or something to pull yourself in? All of those things. You just have to think of in a painful, exquisite detail every little thing you do. How are you going to do that at home now? How are you going to fill a coffee pot? You got to unload the dishwasher. Okay, got to cross the kitchen floor. Do you need, how are you going to get across the kitchen floor from the dishwasher to the cabinet? All of that stuff. In my case, our house, our main living area is all on the same floor, which is a godsend. But, it's nice to go down to my office man cave in the basement because, it forces me to, navigate stairs and get some additional exercise. But the main thing is our kitchen, our eating area, TV room, bedroom is all on the same floor. If you've got some sort of significant physical deficits, being on the same floor is crucial. What else can I think of?
Did anyone at the rehab, once you were able to go through sort of your daily activities with them, was there somebody there that provided devices or gave you some advice on where to get these devices?
Not so much. Therapist, I'm working with you on this particular issue, whether it's physical therapy, occupational therapist, or what have you. These are some assistive devices that might help you, and you could look into them. No, there was no
Okay.
nothing like that.
So you were kind of on your own. Did you find, was it just a web search, or did you?
We were kind of on our own. As far as AFOs, they had a vendor that had an office inside there that could provide ankle foot orthotics. And looking back in that experience, I don't know. It seemed to be sort of like generic. There was no intake and evaluation about exactly what kind of a issue do you have that you need ankle foot orthotics for. And that said, we have this particular raft, this buffet of AFO devices that you could pick and choose from. Let's here are the pros and cons of da 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 da. There is none of that, and which is why I kind of am so hot for doing it through the foundation and
yeah.
Because between
sometimes
go ahead.
Sometimes in these discussions, we find out what works and where we are really lacking in the system in providing support for patients, right?
Yeah.
So that's good information to know, and we will certainly look into other rehabilitation centers and find out how they sort of communicate with patients about what they're up against when they leave, and see what they do for patients, because we would love to be able to provide some resources and tell people, where to go to get to really get advice on just the daily activities, because it sounds like that's what your immediate focus would be on. That I just want to be able to get back to my life as best as I can, and if the rehab you're in can't give you that step by step, then we need to find out somebody who can. So
there's one other thing I want to say regarding rehab. Doing some once you're discharged, you're kind of like on your own.
Yeah.
I want to make an impassioned plea for get yourself some sort of exercise routine, particularly some sort of a knowledgeable physical therapist. It doesn't have to be a doctor degreed physical therapist who's got a bunch of letters after his or her name, but it does need to be somebody who knows something about how to target your particular physical deficit and how knowledge of the body about this little exercise can help a lot. The therapist I see, she's 70 years old, and I can't tell you how many ways she can hurt me if just sitting in a chair. But
absolutely,
that's a left-handed compliment. She knows so much. She's got umpteen different ways of targeting my balance, my core strength, and they're all easy to do at home, sitting on a bed.
Right, and they can change the quality of your life so much.
So I'm making an impassioned plea for targeted, knowledgeable physical therapy.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you, Victor, so much. That was really, really helpful information. Thank you for sharing your story. So I'm going to pivot over to Bob Burton. Welcome, Bob. If you want to tell us a little bit about your story, your connection with the foundation. I don't believe I mentioned before, but Bob is a volunteer that also does chapter meetings for the Newburgh, New York region. So we're really excited to have him today. And welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Bob Burton. I live in Newburgh, New York. And for point of reference, it's about 15 miles north of West Point, 75 miles north of New York City, 90 miles south of Albany. So I'm centrally, and I actually physically live about 3 miles or 4 miles from the Hudson River. So it goes right past. So I was diagnosed August 16th of 2010. I spent 1 week in ICU in the local hospital, and I had 9 bags of IVIG during that week. I was then released to, I was totally paralyzed when I was released. I was released to Helen Hayes Hospital, was your rehab hospital down in Rockland County. I was there for about 3 months. In Helen Hayes, I learned how to function. And by that, I mean, I learned how to eat, shower, walk, everything by myself. And I learned how to walk in a swimming pool. So Victor's point is very well taken, that a pool is very helpful. It was there that I learned about the adaptive devices. I couldn't, my hands, I was paralyzed clawed like this. I had no function whatsoever. I couldn't move my fingers and thumb at all. So for eating, they got me some grips, and they're like, anybody that golfs, oversized golf grips. So they put them in, and the standard joke was, if I had had a dog in the room when I was eating my dinner, the dog would have been weighed about 15 pounds more, because I could, trying to eat with that and try to put stuff in my face. It was an adventure, believe me. Let's see, what else did I have? I couldn't ring the buzzer to call the nurses, so they ended up getting me a device where I could hit it with my chin and would tap on it, which would send a signal for the nurses or the aides to come and help me. It was a learning experience, as we all know, as we go step by step. As my hands began to unfurl, or whatever you want to say, then I could eat more, but I still used the big grips, and I even used them when I came home. They have different ones for knives, different ones for forks, different one for spoons. So one thing that I'm going to add these in is for tips for using, what you might want to get yourself, and they had one down at Helen Hayes, which was great, is double-handed mugs, or so you can have with both grips to learn how to drink with that. Because I mean, if you're going to spill stuff all the time, and you're going to drop things. And side note to that, when I came home, I was trying to help my wife when I could finally stand up a little bit more, and I had feelings I still have neuropathy in my hands and feet. I tried to get plates out of the closet or the cabinet. I thought I had 2. I thought I had 1, but I had 2. But then I did have 1. Down on the floor it went. So we had a serving for 7 instead of for 8. I'm aware of how much each person is different. So everybody's got different challenges, and yet we're all the same. So we either GBS or CIDP, so we can all learn from each other. As I'm learning from Victor, and with everything's help. When I got out of rehab, I left in a wheelchair, and which I spent for the next 3 months. And it took about 15 months. It took me 15 months to learn about the foundation. So I mean. I have, and you've all heard my story, that I've had the difficulty of getting into the local hospital because I want to get in on the ground floor and help people there. But we'll go back to that. I got my mentor how I found out about the foundation was through Steve Smith, who was at the time a liaison, and he got me involved in this. And he said, Bob, you really want to help people and stuff, so you can get this. So that's how I ended up being a liaison. I am also, go backward step, I'm a mentor down at Helen Hayes. I had to go through their training, so I do mentor work down there when they need me, when they call me. And Victor hit about a point down there at Helen Hayes. Before you leave, They have an apartment set up, an adaptive apartment set up in the hospital, and you have to actually spend a night there with your spouse if you're married. And it really works out because, like you say, you have to learn how to get in and out of the things, how you have to move around in an apartment. You need to get, you need to learn how to do things by yourself. Like Victor said, cabinets, dishwashers, sinks. Sinks have to be able, you can't, if you're having a wheelchair, you can't get underneath the sink. So you have to be able to reach up over. And it's kind of difficult. So you have to learn how to adapt to your new normal.
Mhm.
And that's what it becomes. I had to spend I did have to spend a few hours alone with Harriet in that place, and we learned how to do things. And that's when you find out what you need when you're not in a non-hospital environment. The tools you'll need, let's see, don't be too proud to ask for help. One thing that I found out when I came home on my weekend passes is that regular wheelchairs do not fit in a normal house because the doorways are not built for wheelchairs. If you can get, what do they call this? A travel wheelchair. They're smaller. They do fit through the doorways in the house. So that's one thing that I found out. Let's see. Get a travel chair for access around your thing. Suggest a transfer board. If you can get one, get a transfer board to transfer from your bed to the chair, from the chair to the chair, or from your wheelchair to a chair. A transfer board is you slide off and on. That's how you get in and out of your wheelchair. And if you get a travel chair, get the ones with the arms fold down. So that it's easy access. Get the adaptive tools prior to your coming home. Raised toilet seats.
Bingo.
Yep. You don't want the one that, because I mean, normal, everybody has to use the facilities. So you don't want a short chair. I found that it was much easier for that. I also have a shower chair. I've also had both. I've had these things for years because I've had both my knees replaced. So they are a godsend. You definitely need those. I'm telling you, if you can find a phone with the adaptive phone gear. I know they have them out there. I'm fortunate enough I didn't have to have those things, but Kelly, you might know about those things because you're that age. You know those things. Us old guys don't. I'm used to one. Hello, pick this like this. See, I've got one of those. So anyway, you have to have the stuff for your home. Let's see. I've got stuff written down here. Oh, one thing that I'm going to say here, and I mean this from the bottom of it, be kind to your caregiver, because your caregiver is your lifeline, and they help to take care of you. The one thing that I found that I need, and I still need them, is I have to drive my car. I've got wheelchair gloves. I call them driving gloves, and my grandkids make fun of me. How come you have to wear gloves? I says, because my hands don't function well. And they seem that the driving gloves, I can get a grip on the wheel. And so now I can drive and I have fun. Like you say, Victor, I drive. I just got back this weekend. I went up to visit my grandkids in Massachusetts. So I had to go to my granddaughter's birthday. She's 10 going on 25. So anyway, let's see. The one thing I'm going to leave with, and I've tried to use the 3 A's when dealing with GBS and or CIDP. Adapt. Things will hopefully improve. Adjust. When things make things easier for yourself and everybody else around you. And accept. You have a new normal. You have to go, you've gone through trauma. Get professional help when you feel that it's necessary or needed. There's no shame in asking for help. You need it, get it. Don't be ashamed to ask for it. And any other tools that we can get that make your life easier, get them and use them, for God's sake. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what everybody's going to say. Oh, I am afraid to. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You're not. We're in a new normal, as I call it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Bob, I have-
wonderful, Bob. Wonderful.
Can I ask Bob a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
This is the flip side of asking for help. I'll ask for help when I need it. Sometimes I'm offered help when I don't want it.
Mm.
And I'm wondering if that, I've had to kind of like educate my friends and family that, hey, I'm not a delicate egg here. I'll ask for help if I need it. You don't need to kind of, ooh, let me do something for you.
Mhm.
No, I'm trying to maintain my independence and my spirit of use it or lose it. And if I'm in the wheelchair or what have you, or my walker and I trip and fall, so be it. I tripped and fell. Yeah, I'll get up. That's not a horrendous occasion. I've been trying to I guess educate people around me. I'll ask for help when I need it. I appreciate you opening the door. But I don't need as much help as you all seem to think I do.
I know that I understand what you're saying when you're walking and stuff. People don't ask me anymore because I'm pretty much self-reliant now, and I don't. My house has a thing against me because the walls trying to slap the bejesus out of me, and closet doors, they knock me around a little bit. But when I go outside and walk, I'm 75 and I'm not that stable on my feet because of the neuropathy. I have a walking stick, a regular walking stick, and I use that to maintain my balance. And when I feel myself starting to go, I will stop. I mean, I'll stop dead, regroup, and then I'll take off again. So that's how I do it.
Yeah.
If I could too, when people offer their help, you always have to first remember it's done from a good place. They're
Exactly.
trying to be helpful. Secondly, it's typically because they're nervous and uncomfortable. They're afraid you're going to fall or you're going to drop something.
Mhm.
And so the way to handle that is put them at peace. And so what I do is when somebody asks me if I want help when I can handle it, I smile and I thank them. And then I just say, well, you know what? Let me see if I can do that myself.
Mhm.
And it just lowers the temperature. And once you've lowered the temperature with that person, they're much less likely to feel the need to jump in the next time.
Is that response copyrighted? Because I'm going to steal it.
You
That's
got
wonderful.
it. You got it.
That's wonderful advice. And Victor, I think that you nailed it too, that they're learning as well. You have to remember that you're learning your new normal, they're learning a new normal as well. So just having patience there. Well, that's Bob, fantastic ideas. Looks like you have more. Go ahead. Yep.
Just one thing that Victor hit about walking in the pool. If you
Yeah.
have a pool available, if you get yourself a piece of plexiglass, and I learned this when I say I learned how to walk in the pool, I did learn how to walk in Helen Hayes. They gave me a piece of plexiglass or even a little boogie board. If you walk with it in front of you and then hold it behind you and then walk backwards and then walk to your side, put it on your side and sidestep, you will build up so much core strength. It's unbelievable. And it will tire you out. So, okay, that's it.
That's wonderful. So these ideas are so fantastic. I'm taking notes here. We will have an article and a wrap-up article about our discussion today and a list for sure, a growing list of resources for adaptive devices. If you have, any of you have any places, websites, anywhere, any resources that people can go to actually make these purchases, like for instance, the double handled mugs and things that you don't ordinarily see.
Amazon.
Amazon, okay, probably Amazon for everything, truthfully. But yeah, let us know. Send us an email. We'll put it in the article for sure. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Kelly McCoy. So Kelly's going to tell us a little bit about her story, and she is also going to actually mention a list of household items for adapting that I don't know that we've touched on here. So it'll be a good extension to the conversation. Go ahead, Kel.
Thanks, Maureen, and thank you everybody for sharing your stories and your tips. So as Maureen mentioned earlier, my name is Kelly McCoy, and I am the Associate Director of Engagement here at the Foundation. So I am very fortunate that I get to work with all of our incredible volunteers here. I also plan and facilitate all of our educational programming, such as our biennial symposium and our virtual summits. I was diagnosed with CIDP at the age of 28. So at the time I was, experiencing complete paralysis. I, like everyone on this call, did physical and occupational therapy to get myself back to mobile. I'm very fortunate in my recovery. I also used, the typical adaptive devices in my recovery, a wheelchair, walker, and a cane. But what I really wanted to touch on today was some really inexpensive items that you might even have in your home that can help you in your day-to-day independence. So the first thing I wanted to talk about are pop sockets. So these, you probably have seen these everywhere, but they stick on the back of your phone, and they make it so that you can hold and stabilize your phone with whichever fingers are most comfortable for you. They also make bands where you could put 1 or 2 fingers in just so you can hold your phone stably. Also, they're not just used for your phone. If you use an e-reader, you can probably get 1 or 2 so that you're able to hold it more steady. Just something to keep it in your hand. If you're like me, you like to check your phone in bed, and oftentimes I drop my phone right on my face. No bruises yet, not yet. Other than that, we have silicone straws or metal straws, but I prefer silicone because they're flexible. So with problems like facial and hand numbness, it's really important. I know that there's a big movement now to eliminate straws, which is great for the environment, but not so great for the community that needs adaptive help. You can keep them, they have some that come in little cases that you can keep in your purse or in your pocket. So when you're out and about, you can have access to that straw. You can adjust the angle. You can bite on the silicone, which is why I prefer it. The metal straw, you don't want to bite on that. You might break a tooth. Wireless headphones and chargers. So my bedroom, I like to keep a wire-free zone. So when I'm getting in and out of bed, especially in the night, there's nothing that's going to trip me up. You could get caught, they're easily caught on things, especially if you have issues with fine motor skills. It's a little difficult to manipulate a wire to plug it in. So you can get wireless charging pads where you can charge your phone, your headphones if you have wireless headphones. I know that they can get pretty expensive wireless headphones, but you can also at a Marshall's or TJ Maxx usually find them pretty inexpensively. Also, again, eliminating wires is important. We know that it can throw you off balance if you're using them to go on a walk with your walker and anything like that. It's just one less thing you have to worry about. Oven mitts. This seems kind of silly, but if you have issues with your hands, with feelings in your hands, or with gripping, fine mobility skills, and you want to maintain independence, cooking is a great way to do so, but you may struggle with using the oven. You want to get an oven mitt that comes up high on your arm so that you're not risking burning yourself without noticing. Also, if they have silicone tips, that's great for grip. Great for pulling things out of the oven on the racks and not burning yourself or dropping anything. And wrist rests for keyboards and ergonomical computer mice. So if you're like me and you're on the computer a lot, you may experience fatigue in your wrist. You also are probably feeling some numbness and tingling from doing the same motion over and over again. So this is just a great way to keep your hands stable and to extend the amount of time that you're able to use your keyboard or computer mice. So those are just a few tips that I have. There's been a lot of great tips on this call, but I thought these were helpful little things that you might not think about that would help you maintain your independence.
Great, Kel. Thank you. You probably have, most people have at least half of those things at home already. So it makes life a little bit easier, right? As you're going through this. We are going to wrap up, last but not least, of course, with Bob Shay. Bob's going to tell us a little bit about his story, his foundation, and offer us his wonderful words of wisdom.
Hi, and thank you. As you probably noticed, in the newsletter, I mentioned an author by the name of Viktor Frankl. And Viktor wrote, "To live is to experience pain, but to survive is finding meaning and purpose in the pain." And if there's one group I don't have to explain the pain associated with Guillain-Barré, is this group. It causes pain on so many different levels for not only the patients, but the people that surround them. And pain has become an old friend of mine. A week after I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré, I was in intensive care on a ventilator, feeding tube. I couldn't even close my eyes. They had to be taped shut so that I could sleep at night. I was totally paralyzed. But that actually wasn't the worst of it. The combination of the ICU psychosis and the morphine caused me to lose the ability to see the line that separated delusion from reality. And there would be many evil and ugly delusions. And of all the things that I would go through during this period of my life, losing my mind was far and away the worst. Now, I would be in 4 hospitals over 7 months. I would then begin physical and occupational therapy to try to regain function. I had to learn how to sit up and roll over. I was like a brand new baby. But the pain would continue. The company that provided our health insurance went under. And subsequently, I was left with all the medical bills. And I was financially devastated. Then my mother, who was a force of nature, came every day to the hospital while I was sick, was diagnosed with vascular dementia. And she would move in with us and we would begin the long goodbye. And then my wife was diagnosed with cancer, a aggressive form of cancer. It had spread to a second location. It was very serious, and she would be faced with the horrors of surgery and then chemotherapy. Now, I know there were a lot of people who looked at me as somebody who had lost everything. There is a line from a Sam Cooke song that says, "It's too painful to live, but I'm afraid to die." Go live there, and it will change you. It changed me. The Buddhists say suffering is the resistance to pain. We all think pain and suffering taught me that that was not the case. They were separate. And that when you resist the pain, then you just become broken. But when you learn to accept the pain, then you find that you are broken open. And that opening is what allows you to see the meaning and purpose that Viktor Frankl talked about. Now, at this point in my life, I thought, okay, I choose to be broken open. And it is a choice. We all have them. Every moment of our life is a choice. And I chose, I'm going to choose to be broken open. So what can I do with this? Well, I had been the person in the bed. And at one point, they gave me 24 hours to live. So I decided I will go volunteer at hospice, specifically with the group that goes to be with the patient and the family when the patient is actively dying. And suddenly there was purpose, because I would point to my scar on my neck where I had been intubated, and I would tell them it's my membership card. And that always got a smile. Well, it wasn't much longer that a manager at the hospice here in Chicago started referring to me as the hospice whisperer. And pretty soon, nurses and social workers, when they had a difficult case, started asking me to be involved. And today, I am on the board of directors of Rainbow Hospice here in Chicago. Now, around this time, a good friend of mine, Ed Kane, we lived right down down the street from each other in a neighborhood in Chicago, and he had 4 kids and I had 4 kids, and they went to the same school. And Ed coached my one son in baseball, and I helped him coach a basketball team. Ed was diagnosed with ALS, and it was painful to think that Ed was going to have to face what I faced. The only difference being Ed had a one-way ticket. And so at one point, as the disease progressed, Ed was prescribed a complex wheelchair. And Ed had insurance. It allocated up to $2,500 for a wheelchair. And the complex wheelchair cost $30,000. And the question was that, and Ed and I, our diseases had taught Ed and I how important this equipment is. We've heard the people before me discuss this. It is critical. It gives you your life back. And so the question, Ed was able to take the money out of his 401k, but the question came up, not a poor person. Where does a middle-class person go to get $27,000 for a wheelchair? And if he had not been able to, Ed would have spent the rest of his life laying in bed. And we looked around and could find nothing. There was no place to go. And to our surprise, we found out that organizations like Salvation Army or Catholic Charities or Goodwill or even the VA does not accept donations of medical equipment. The explanation being you can't repurpose medical equipment. And then it occurred to me, wait a minute, from my years in hospice, what happens to all those wheelchairs and walkers and all of that equipment when a person passes away? There's no place for them to donate it. And yet there's no place for somebody who is in need to go get help getting this equipment. So again, we were told that you can't do this, but Ed and I weren't smart enough to realize that you just don't do that. So we started an organization called Devices for the Disabled 5 years ago. And it was simply, we would take donated equipment, refurbish it, and give it to people in need who don't have insurance or there's gaps in their insurance at no cost. And they could use that as a tool to get their life back. Now, 4 years ago, my friend Ed passed away, but he got to see the organization get off the launch pad. And we started out with just a storage bin and word of mouth. We would just go run out a wheelchair to somebody or offer somebody a cane. Well, today, Devices for the Disabled operates out of the Ed Kane Center here in Chicago. And we work with hospitals across Chicago, providing this type of equipment, what is referred to as durable medical equipment, to patients of the hospitals that the social workers deem as not being able to acquire the equipment themselves. And this year, the Chicago Bears, our football team, designated Devices for the Disabled as the charity of the year. Now, there is absolutely nothing special about me. I am just an ordinary guy who had the incredible good fortune to get Guillain-Barré syndrome. It was my disease that finally broke me open. None of this, being on the board of directors of Rainbow Hospice, being the executive director of Devices for the Disabled, all the people whose lives are being touched, none of that would have happened if I hadn't not gotten Guillain-Barré syndrome. And so the lesson to all of us is, when you experience pain, like the pain of Guillain-Barré, The question is not why. The question is what for. And that's why the foundation is so important. It is because you can come to the foundation and meet people like Bob and Victor, and they will help you understand and eventually accept that pain. And then a whole different life opens up to you. And so to close, I'd like to thank Maureen and Kelly and all the people at the foundation for all of these years helping me to be broken open. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, Bob. Well said. That was really, really wonderful and so inspiring. And I'm sure our audience today would like to hear more, perhaps chat with our panelists. So following our presentation today, there is a live Zoom coffee chat. If you haven't registered, please register now. And we are going to continue the conversation, and you'll get to ask our panelists questions about adaptive devices and so much more. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you soon and looking forward to chatting with you in a few minutes.